I'm going to be straight with you. Every once in a while, a human being shows up on this planet who just doesn't make sense. Someone who moves the world around them, bends expectations, and leaves behind a story so big, so wild, and so legendary that it almost feels like fiction. And trust me, when it comes to stories like that, nobody, and I mean nobody, sits higher on that mountaintop than Wilt Chamberlain. Yeah, that Wilt, the man who once scored 100 points in a single NBA game, a number so ridiculous it almost feels like a typo. The man whose stats look like somebody turned on a cheat code. The man who lived a life so unbelievable that the myths about him are almost as famous as his records. But here's the part most people don't know. Behind the superhero numbers, behind the 7'1" frame, behind the fame, controversy, and all the headlines, there was a real human being. Complicated, brilliant, flawed, driven, lonely, confident, insecure, disciplined, rebellious, and absolutely obsessed with one thing: becoming someone the world would never forget. And that's exactly what he did. Today, we're not just talking basketball, we're talking life. We're talking legacy. We're talking about the private habits, mental routines, struggles, relationships, controversies, and the deeper motivations that shaped one of the most mysterious icons in American sports history. This is the story you don't get in highlight reels. This is the side of Wilt nobody showed you. And I promise you, once we're finished, you'll see him in a way you never have before. But hey, before we dive into this journey, I gotta say this. If you're someone who loves learning the real-life stories behind the world's greatest athletes, the struggles, the wins, the secrets, the sacrifices, then make sure you join The Athlete's Book. Because this is where we tell the stories everybody knows, but like nobody's ever told them before. All right, let's get into it. I still remember the first time I heard somebody talk about Wilt Chamberlain's childhood. Not the basketball version, not the unstoppable giant, but the skinny kid running through the streets of Philadelphia. The surprising part? Wilt didn't even want to play basketball at first. In fact, he called it a game for sissies. Yeah, that's Wilt for you. Always his own man, always challenging the world even as a kid. He was built different from the jump, literally. Born in 1936, one of 9 children, with a father who worked as a welder and a mother who cleaned houses, Wilt grew up in a working-class environment that taught him 2 things early: respect and responsibility. But he was also growing taller, faster, stronger than every kid around him. By the time he was 10 years old, he was already 6 feet tall. Imagine being in 5th grade and towering over your teachers. Imagine being a child who can't fade into the background even when you want to. Wilt never had that luxury. His size wasn't a blessing at first. It was pressure. It was attention. It was expectation. And let me tell you something. You can hear this in every interview he ever did. Wilt Chamberlain hated being defined by his height. He didn't want to be the tall kid. He didn't want to be the freakishly gifted one. He wanted to be normal. But the world doesn't let people like Wilt Chamberlain be normal. Even before basketball found him, he was already a standout in track and field. Long jump, high jump, shot put, quarter-mile sprints. Yes, a 7-foot man sprinting like a track star. He could do it all. And the crazy thing is, that versatility shaped his mentality long before he ever touched the basketball court. Because while the world saw a giant, Wilt saw himself as a complete athlete. And that mindset, that's why he dominated in ways players today still can't match. But his real transformation, his first big moment, happened at Overbrook High School. This was where Wilt Chamberlain became a problem. Dominant was an understatement. He wasn't just better than everyone, he was in a different universe. He averaged more than 30 points a game in high school. And remember, this was before the three-point line, before highlight culture, before social media hype. This was raw talent, raw dominance, raw hunger. College recruiters lined up. Everybody wanted Wilt. Kansas got him. And this is where the Wilt Chamberlain story takes its first major turn. Because for the first time, Wilt didn't just dominate, he struggled. Not physically, Not skill-wise, but mentally, emotionally, socially. See, Wilt Chamberlain was a young black man in the 1950s in Kansas, standing over 7 feet tall, drawing attention everywhere he went. Every room he stepped into, eyes were on him. Every headline talked about him. Every fan, every reporter, every critic had something to say about him. And let me be real here, it wore him down a lot. He dealt with racism, isolation, and the pressure of being the most watched college athlete in the country. And that pressure shaped the private habits and routines that would later define his life. One of those habits? Wilt became obsessed with controlling his own narrative. He didn't want writers deciding who he was. He didn't want coaches defining his reputation. He didn't want America painting him as a stereotype. He wanted control. And for the rest of his life, he chased it. But at Kansas, he also faced something new. Rules designed to stop him. The NCAA literally changed rules because of him. They widened the lane. Their goaltending rules tightened. They changed inbound rules so teams couldn't just toss the ball to the rim for Wilt to catch and dunk. Imagine being so good that basketball itself evolves because of you. But all this pressure, the spotlight, the expectations, the isolation, it pushed Wilt into becoming a deeply introspective person. He studied himself. He studied his mind. He learned how to stay calm under chaos. He began what he later called mind clearing, a mental exercise where he'd isolate himself, slow his breathing, and detach from stress to reset his focus. One of those habits? Wilt became obsessed with controlling his own narrative. He didn't want writers deciding who he was. He didn't want coaches defining his reputation. He didn't want America painting him as a stereotype. He wanted control. And for the rest of his life, he chased it. But at Kansas, he also faced something new. Rules designed to stop him. The NCAA literally changed rules because of him. They widened the lane. Their goaltending rules tightened. They changed inbound rules so teams couldn't just toss the ball to the rim for Wilt to catch and dunk. Imagine being so good that basketball itself evolves because of you. But all this pressure, the spotlight, the expectations, the isolation, it pushed Wilt into becoming a deeply introspective person. He studied himself. He studied his mind. He learned how to stay calm under chaos. He began what he later called mind clearing, a mental exercise where he'd isolate himself, slow his breathing, and detach from stress to reset his focus. Today, athletes call it mindfulness. Wilt was doing it in the 1950s. No coach taught him, no psychologist introduced it. He invented it by necessity. But his biggest moment at Kansas was also one of his toughest, the 1957 NCAA championship game against North Carolina. Wilt was double-teamed, triple-teamed, hacked, grabbed, held, everything defenders could legally and illegally do. He lost the game, and America blamed him. And that moment, that became fuel for the rest of his career. He swore that when he got to the pros, nobody, not fans, not coaches, not leagues, would dictate who he was again. And so, when Wilt Chamberlain finally stepped into the NBA in 1959, basketball had no idea what was coming, but Wilt did. He wasn't there to fit in. He wasn't there to do things the normal way. He was there to rewrite the rule book. And he did. When Wilt Chamberlain entered the NBA, the entire league felt like it shifted overnight. Picture this. The sport was built around smaller, scrappier players. 6'3", 6'5" guys who made their living off mid-range shots and hustle plays. And then here comes Wilt, a literal giant With track star speed, bodybuilder strength, and a personality that didn't just walk into a room, it took over the whole building. From day one, he wasn't just playing basketball, he was redefining it. In his rookie year with the Philadelphia Warriors, Wilt averaged 37 points and 27 rebounds. As a rookie, let me repeat that, as a rookie, the man averaged numbers that most Hall of Famers couldn't touch on their best nights. And remember, this wasn't the pace and space NBA of today. This was the bruising, grinded-out 1960s, where every shot was contested, every rebound was a fist fight, and referees let almost anything go. Wilt didn't just survive in that environment, he dominated it. But this is where the story gets interesting, because behind all the box score insanity, Wilt Chamberlain was already facing something deeper, something heavier, something that would follow him his entire career. People didn't just want to beat Wilt, they wanted to humble him. Fans called him selfish, teammates resented him, coaches tried to fix him, reporters twisted his words, opponents hacked him, shoved him, pulled him, grabbed him, threw entire double teams at him just to keep him from embarrassing them. It's hard to imagine today, but Wilt spent most of his prime as the villain of the NBA, and that did something to him. It made him even more disciplined, even more private, even more committed to living life by his rules. Wilt had a strict daily routine, a mix of physical discipline and mental training he built himself. He woke up early, stretched for nearly an hour, then ran long distances to maintain cardio conditioning. People forget this, but Wilt once ran a sub-11-second 100-yard dash. He wasn't just tall, he was one of the most explosive and agile athletes of his generation. And get this, Wilt wasn't a heavy lifter early on. His strength came from body weight training, calisthenics, speed work, and flexibility drills he developed by studying track athletes. He believed the strongest body was the one that could move fast and efficiently. But beyond the physical habits, Wilt practiced mental conditioning every morning. He'd sit alone, close his eyes, and breathe in slow, controlled patterns. Long inhales, longer exhales. He used visualization before the word visualization became mainstream. He imagined defenders, court angles, and sequences of plays. He mentally rehearsed dominating games before stepping on the hardwood. And he did something even more advanced, something modern sports psychologists talk about all the time. He detached from public noise. Wilt understood early that critics weren't reacting to him, they were reacting to the idea of him, the unstoppable giant, the stat monster, the man who made the impossible look casual. So Wilt created a kind of mental shield, an emotional filter that blocked negativity. He focused on only what he could control: his effort, his conditioning, his mind, his shot, his body, his emotions. This self-designed mental system is the real reason Wilt stayed at the top for so long. It wasn't just gifts, it was discipline, the type people rarely talk about. But even with all his control, Wilt still found himself in the middle of one of the most controversial relationships in sports history: his rivalry with Bill Russell. Now, don't get it twisted. Wilt and Russell were friends behind the scenes, real friends. They joked, they ate together, they respected each other. But the world didn't want that version of their relationship. Reporters wanted conflict, fans wanted beef, narratives needed drama. So the media framed Wilt as the selfish individualist and Russell as the ultimate team player. They turned their friendship into a battle of ideologies, and Wilt carried the heavier weight of the two. Every time he put up insane stats, people said, "Yeah, but Russell wins." Every time he lost, they blamed him for not being clutch enough. Every time he succeeded, they claimed it wasn't enough. And trust me, that stuff gets in your head no matter how strong you are. But Wilt's response?
he turned the criticism into obsession. He started studying the game differently. He studied angles, rotations, rebounding physics, defensive timing. He developed counter moves, footwork patterns, strategies for passing out of double teams. People forget this, but Wilt later became the assist leader in the NBA, not because he wanted to, but because critics told him he couldn't. That's who he was. Every time someone said, "You can't," Wilt took it as a personal challenge. But let me tell you about one night that cemented his legend forever. The night the world couldn't believe what they were seeing. March 2, 1962. Hershey, Pennsylvania. A tiny arena. Barely 4,000 fans. No full TV broadcast. Stat sheets kept by guys with pencils. It wasn't supposed to be a historic night. It was just another game. Just another road trip. Players joked, warmed up, messed around. And then Wilt Chamberlain decided to give the world a performance so unreal, so absurd, so impossible, that decades later it still doesn't feel real. 100 points. 100. He scored from everywhere. He scored at will. He ran the court like he was late to catch a flight. He dunked, he hit fadeaways, he hit free throws. Yes, free throws. He grabbed offensive rebounds and put them back in before defenders even reacted. Teammates passed to him because they wanted to witness history. Fans started chanting for him. Opponents got frustrated, tired, and eventually just watched. And in the middle of it all, Wilt stayed surprisingly calm. Almost too calm. Like he wasn't shocked, or overwhelmed, or emotional. Because the truth is, Wilt knew this was possible. He'd visualized nights like this during his mental training. He'd rehearsed dominating to this degree in his head. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a fluke. It was preparation meeting opportunity. But here's the wild part. After the game, Wilt wasn't even celebrating. He said he felt relieved, because now people had something new to expect from him. The 100-point game became both his crown and his burden. It made him immortal, and it made his life harder. From that moment on, everything Wilt did, or didn't do, was judged against perfection. He could score 55 points and people would shrug. He could get 40 rebounds, and critics would say he should have had more. He could dominate physically and still be called selfish. It wore on him. So Wilt started exploring parts of life beyond basketball. And this is a side of him people almost never talk about. Wilt Chamberlain was one of the most curious, intellectual athletes of his time. He loved reading. He studied history. He immersed himself in philosophy. He wrote multiple books. He explored art, music, and politics. He wasn't just an athlete. He was a thinker, and he surrounded himself with people who weren't afraid to challenge him mentally. He had friends in Hollywood, in academia, in business. He talked to authors, professors, artists, comedians, people completely outside the basketball world. Why? Because Wilt didn't want to be one-dimensional. He didn't want to be remembered as the tall guy who scored a lot. He wanted depth. And let's talk about the controversy that followed him everywhere. The stories about his relationships, his dating life, the numbers he supposedly talked about. Look, I'm not here to judge or glamorize anything. What I will say is this. Wilt Chamberlain believed in being 100% transparent about who he was, even when it made people uncomfortable. He had a larger-than-life personality, larger-than-life fame, and he lived a larger-than-life lifestyle. And yes, that caused controversy. Yes, people debated it. Yes, critics jumped on it. But behind all the noise was a deeper truth. Wilt Chamberlain was always chasing connection, real connection. He lived in a world that saw his size before it saw his soul.
And that shaped a lot of his private relationships in ways people never understood. But the controversy that hit him hardest wasn't about his relationships. It was about his game, his rivalry, his desire to finally silence the critics who had followed him since Kansas. And that moment came when he joined the Los Angeles Lakers in the late 1960s. The pressure was insane. The expectations were suffocating. The spotlight of LA was brighter than anything he'd ever seen. And Wilt, still hungry, still determined, still chasing that one achievement that kept slipping away, pushed his body and mind harder than ever. He worked on free throws. He worked on passing. He worked on low-post finesse. He worked on defense. He studied Russell's Celtics and broke down exactly why they beat him. He didn't want to just outscore people anymore. He wanted to win. And that mental shift changed everything. In 1972, Wilt Chamberlain helped lead the Lakers to one of the greatest seasons in NBA history, including a 33-game win streak that still stands today. He changed his style completely, focused on team play, anchored the defense, owned the paint, set screens, passed, and became the ultimate anchor. He finally became a champion on his terms. But here's the part that stuck with me most deeply. Wilt Chamberlain said that winning a title didn't feel the way he thought it would. It didn't erase the criticism. It didn't silence the comparisons. It didn't magically validate his sacrifices. Because somewhere along the way, Wilt realized something profound. Chasing approval is a game you can never win. He learned that the only victory that matters is being at peace with yourself. And that lesson shaped the rest of his life far more than any championship ring. After Wilt Chamberlain finally won that championship in 1972, a lot of people assumed he'd finally relax, that he'd finally feel satisfied, finally feel respected, finally feel like the world understood who he really was. But the truth? Wilt's battle wasn't with the world, it was with himself. For years, he'd lived under pressure that would have crushed most people. He'd been glorified, criticized, misrepresented, and misunderstood all at once. And even now, with a championship ring on his finger, Wilt still felt something lingering deep inside him. A question he'd never quite answered. What do I want out of life now? Basketball had been the stage that made him a legend, but it had also trapped him. It boxed him into expectations he never asked for. It shaped a reputation that wasn't always fair, and it demanded more from him than any one human being should have to give. And so after the 1972 championship, Wilt Chamberlain stood at a crossroads. He could keep chasing more rings. He could keep playing at the highest level. He could keep satisfying the fans, the media, the narrative. But Wilt wasn't wired like that. He wasn't a man who lived inside other people's definitions. He wasn't someone who stayed stuck in one chapter of life. Wilt Chamberlain believed in evolution. He believed in challenging himself. He believed that life wasn't meant to be lived in one dimension. So after the 1972-73 season, Wilt Chamberlain walked away. Just like that. And let me tell you, for someone as gifted as him, that decision was shocking. But it also makes perfect sense once you understand how he thought. Wilt Chamberlain didn't want to fade out gradually. He didn't want to become a role player, a bench guy, or a shadow of his former self. He wanted to leave the game with his legacy untouched. And he did. But he didn't disappear from the spotlight, not even close, because Wilt Chamberlain now had an entire world to explore. And he attacked life after basketball with the same dominance, curiosity, and intensity that made him a legend on the court. He became a businessman. He became a world traveler. He became a spokesperson. He became a writer. He became a thinker.
He even became, yes, a volleyball star. People laughed when they heard Wilt was joining a professional volleyball league after basketball. They thought it was a joke, a publicity stunt, something silly and unnecessary. And then Wilt became the best player in the league. Because that's what he did. Everything he touched, he pushed to the extreme. But there's something deeper here, something most people don't realize. Volleyball gave Wilt something basketball never could: freedom. No double teams, no broken expectations, no comparisons to Bill Russell, no nightly wars under the basket, no newspapers twisting his performance, no pressure from teammates or the city or the league. In volleyball, Wilt was just another athlete, a tall one, a strong one, a dominant one. But he wasn't burdened by the weight of being Wilt Chamberlain. And he loved that. He loved the camaraderie. He loved the relaxed environment. He loved competing without people expecting the impossible. He loved being treated like a normal teammate again. But volleyball was just one chapter in Wilt's post-NBA story. The bigger transformation happened in his mind. For the first time in his adult life, Wilt Chamberlain could explore who he was off the court, and he dove into that journey with absolute intensity. He started reading more than ever: history, politics, science, psychology, Eastern philosophy. He wanted to understand the world beyond fame, beyond basketball, beyond physical ability. He wanted to understand human nature, including his own. Wilt wasn't interested in being just another retired athlete. He wanted to grow. So he developed new routines, new habits, new mental practices. Many mornings, Wilt would meditate for long stretches, longer than he did in his playing days. He'd sit in complete silence, practicing gratitude, focusing on his breathing, clearing his mind of clutter. He developed what he described as mental detachment, the ability to step outside his own emotions and analyze them objectively. He once said, "Peace of mind is worth more than applause." And you know what? That might be the realest thing he ever said, because Wilt had lived decades in applause, loud, constant, demanding. And now, for the first time, he could hear himself think. He spent long periods alone, sometimes in his house in Bel Air, other times in his mountain home near Lake Tahoe. He'd take long walks. He'd drive his cars through open highways with no destination, just letting his thoughts unravel.
Wilt Chamberlain was learning how to be human again. But don't get it twisted. He didn't spend all his time meditating and reading. Wilt still had the competitive fire burning inside him. He was just directing it into different arenas. He started lifting weights seriously. And when I say seriously, I mean Wilt Chamberlain became one of the strongest men alive after retiring. He bench pressed over 500 pounds. He could squat like a powerlifter. He built a physique that made even bodybuilders take notice. And by the way, he did this in his late 30s and early 40s. But here's the detail that blows my mind. Wilt didn't start intense weightlifting until after his NBA career. He actually avoided heavy lifting while he played because he believed it would slow his game down. But afterward, he went all in. And that's the pattern you see throughout his life. When Wilt decided to focus on something, he mastered it. But the most important transformation Wilt went through during his post-NBA years wasn't physical. It was emotional. You see, Wilt Chamberlain had spent his entire life being larger than life, literally and figuratively. He was the center of attention everywhere he went. He was treated differently, judged differently, expected to act differently. But in his 40s and 50s, Wilt finally learned how to embrace solitude, how to enjoy quiet, how to appreciate real friendships, not superficial ones. He became thoughtful, reflective, more grounded. He had deep conversations with friends late into the night, talking about society, racism, masculinity, morality, fame,
love, and the meaning of fulfillment. Wilt wasn't afraid to open up with people who truly understood him, and he wasn't afraid to admit his flaws. He spoke with surprising vulnerability about feeling misunderstood, about dealing with loneliness, about struggling to connect on a deeper level. Behind the supersized personality, Wilt Chamberlain was a human being trying to figure out life just like anyone else. But let's talk about one of the most misunderstood parts of his life, the one that became a lightning rod for controversy. You already know what I'm talking about. Wilt Chamberlain wrote things in his books that people still debate to this day. His dating life, the number he mentioned, the stories he shared. Now here's the truth, and I'm saying this carefully because this is a documentary, not gossip. Wilt Chamberlain believed in honesty even when the truth made people uncomfortable. He believed that a man shouldn't hide who he really is. He believed that his personal life was his business, and he had every right to talk about it. Did it cause controversy? Absolutely. Did people exaggerate it? No doubt. Did the media run wild with it? Of course. But to Wilt, transparency wasn't a publicity stunt. It was liberation. He said that people had always tried to define him as a player, as a competitor, as a man. So telling the truth was his way of reclaiming his identity. And if you strip away the noise, what you see is a man who wanted to be understood. Maybe for the first time, maybe for the last time, maybe just to see who the world thought he really was. But one thing about Wilt was constant. He never apologized for being himself, and he never pretended to be something he wasn't. As he entered his later years, Wilt Chamberlain shifted his life towards something even more important than fame or dominance: legacy. Not legacy as in basketball stats. Those were untouchable. Legacy as in meaning, impact, contribution. Wilt wanted to be someone future generations could admire, not just as an athlete, but as a thinker, a pioneer, a role model. He wanted to inspire people to live fully, boldly, fearlessly, to think for themselves, to challenge expectations, to be their own person. And so, he started giving speeches, going to schools, visiting youth programs, talking to kids who felt different, who felt overlooked, who felt like they didn't fit in. Wilt told them the truth, that life isn't about fitting in, it's about standing out, owning your story, embracing your uniqueness, becoming the version of yourself you can be proud of. And through all of this, the fame, the controversy, the transformation, the relationships, the introspection, Wilt Chamberlain had one consistent message: don't let the world define you. Define yourself. It was a message he lived by, a message he fought for, a message that came from decades of struggling with public perception. But the real beauty of Wilt's story? He never let the world break him. Not once, not ever. The man who scored 100 points, the man who dominated an entire era, the man who shattered the sport's expectations, was the same man who spent his later years trying to master inner peace. Because in the end, Wilt Chamberlain wasn't chasing applause anymore. He was chasing something much more powerful: understanding, wisdom, purpose, and peace. And even though Wilt Chamberlain was shining brighter than the Philly city lights, life had another twist waiting for him, one that would send shock waves through the entire basketball world. You see, sometimes greatness isn't chosen. Sometimes it's demanded. And in Wilt's case, the world was demanding something bigger. So let's keep going. When Wilt Chamberlain decided to leave the Harlem Globetrotters after just one legendary season, people were confused. Like, why would anyone walk away from world tours, sold-out crowds, and a show built around their superhuman abilities? But Wilt wasn't built to be a sideshow. He wasn't built to be a novelty. He knew deep down that he was supposed to redefine a sport, not just entertain it. So in 1959, when he officially joined the Philadelphia Warriors, the entire NBA held its breath. Suddenly, this wasn't just basketball anymore. This was something the world had never seen. The first time Wilt stepped onto an NBA court, players looked at him like people look at a hurricane warning. Like, this thing could wipe us out. And that wasn't far from the truth. He didn't just dominate the league, he owned it. Rookie season? Yeah, Wilt casually put up 37.6 points per game and 27 rebounds. Let me say that again for the people in the back. 37 and 27 as a rookie. That's not basketball. That's a cheat code. And here's the wild part. His teammates weren't even surprised. They'd seen the way he trained. They'd seen the way he approached every practice like it was war prep. Wilt didn't just want to beat people. He wanted to outthink them, outrun them, outlast them, and outwill them. He had a rule he lived by. If I lose, it will never be because someone worked harder than me. And that mindset, that obsession, is why by his second year, he was already the most feared man in sports. But then came the rivalry that shaped an era. The story every hoop fan in America knows by heart. Wilt Chamberlain versus Bill Russell. Now listen, this wasn't just a rivalry. This was Ali versus Frazier. This was Magic versus Bird before Magic and Bird even existed. This was two titans smashing into each other night after night, each representing something bigger than basketball. Wilt was the unstoppable force. Russell was the immovable object. One was built like Zeus, the other was built like strategy itself. And every time they squared off, arena shook. Wilt once said, "Playing against Russell was like playing against the most intelligent wall ever built." But here's what people forget. Despite the media trying to play up a rivalry, Wilt respected Russell deeply, and Russell respected Wilt completely. Behind the scenes, they were friends. Late-night conversations, deep talks about life, race, opportunity, and responsibility. Two black superstars navigating a world that still didn't know how to process that kind of power. And that bond shaped Wilt more than people realize. Because while the world wanted him to be a headline machine, Wilt wanted to be something different. He wanted to be understood. But for all the dominance, all the rivalry, all the fame, there was one night that would forever define him. One night that turned a basketball player into a myth. A night so unbelievable that to this day, people still argue whether it even happened the way the story says. Let me take you there. Hershey, Pennsylvania, March 2nd, 1962. It wasn't a glamorous night. It wasn't a finals game. It wasn't even televised. Just a small arena, a local crowd, a weird, almost sleepy vibe. But Wilt Chamberlain walked in with a fire that nobody in the building could understand yet. His teammates said he looked loose, relaxed, smiling, almost like he knew something was coming. By halftime, Wilt had 41. People were like, okay, cool. Wilt is doing Wilt things. But the third quarter? Oh man, that's where the universe shifted. Wilt dropped 28 in one quarter. Suddenly the crowd woke up. Suddenly the bench realized something historic was happening. Suddenly the energy went from casual to electric. Fans started chanting. Opponents started double teaming, then triple teaming. Didn't matter. Wilt kept scoring. Shot after shot. Free throw after free throw. Rebound put back after rebound put back. And then in the final moments, when the impossible was in reach, his teammates stopped shooting altogether. They fed him every ball. They said, go finish this. The crowd took over the countdown. 98, 99, and then, boom, 100. the most famous number in basketball history. He held a piece of paper with 100 written on it, a photo taken in the locker room that looked like a high school gym. No cameras rolling, no national broadcast, just history, frozen in an ordinary moment. But here's something people rarely talk about. After the game, Wilt didn't celebrate. He didn't throw a party. He didn't act like a man who just broke reality. He got on a bus. He rode home. Quiet, calm, reflective. Because that's who he was. A man who wanted greatness, but never wanted to be trapped by it. And boy, did that spotlight come with shadows. Because when you're that dominant, the world starts asking impossible questions. Is he too big? Is he ruining the game? Is he fair? Imagine being so good that a major sports league literally has to rewrite rules to slow you down. The NBA widened the lane, changed offensive goaltending rules, adjusted how free throws worked, all because of one man. But here's the twist. Wilt didn't get angry. He didn't complain. He took it as a challenge. He said, if you change the rules, then I'll change the game. And that adapt or dominate mentality, that's why he stayed great for so long. But behind the scenes, Wilt was battling something deeper, something almost no one knew at the time. The weight of expectations, the pressure of fame, the loneliness of being the biggest icon in the sport. Wilt once said, "Nobody roots for Goliath." That's how he felt. Misunderstood, judged, targeted, sometimes even villainized. But instead of letting it break him, Wilt did what champions do. He learned. He grew. He strengthened his mind the same way he strengthened his body. Meditation, visualization, journaling, studying philosophers, studying psychology, even practicing controlled breathing long before it became trendy. Wilt was ahead of his time, a mental athlete before the world understood what that meant. And all of that shaped the next massive chapter of his life, the chapter where he became more than a scorer, more than a stat machine, more than a rivalry. He became a champion. Not just because he won a ring, but because he evolved as a leader. And the story behind that evolution? It's powerful. And trust me, you're about to hear the part of Wilt's life almost nobody talks about. But here's the thing about Wilt Chamberlain that most people don't get. The man was more than just a basketball machine. He was an innovator, a thinker, a pioneer. And if you peel back the layers of the public persona, the scoring records, the 100-point game, the dominance, you begin to see the real Wilt, the man who obsessed over understanding life itself. You see, Wilt didn't just practice basketball. He practiced everything. He analyzed the human body, experimenting with diet and training in ways that would make today's sports scientists jealous. He recorded his own stats down to the last detail. Rebounds, shot attempts, minutes played, free throw percentages. Wilt tracked it all. And he didn't just track numbers. He studied patterns. Patterns of defenders, patterns of teammates, patterns of crowds. Every movement was a data point. Every moment, a potential lesson. And that's what made him unbeatable. But let's be honest, the genius side of Wilt Chamberlain often got buried under the myths. People saw him as this unstoppable scoring machine, a freak, a physical anomaly. And yes, he was all that. But the truth is, the mental side of Wilt Chamberlain was just as extraordinary, if not more. Take, for example, his famous no excuses mentality. He once said, "You can either sit there and complain about what's happening to you, or you can study it, learn from it, and crush it." And he didn't just say it, he lived it. Even when faced with physical punishment on the court, endless double teams, hacking, rough fouls, Wilt didn't whine. He adapted, he adjusted, he innovated. Every challenge became an opportunity to refine his game, sharpen his mind, and prepare for the next battle. That's a lesson most athletes never truly understand. That dominance isn't just about talent, it's about resilience, preparation, and the relentless drive to evolve. But let's talk about a side of Wilt Chamberlain you rarely hear about, his lifestyle and activism. The man who seemed larger than life off the court was actually deeply thoughtful about social issues. In a time when many athletes shied away from speaking out, Wilt had opinions, and he wasn't afraid to express them, quietly, strategically, and with intellect. He understood that influence came with responsibility, and he tried to use his platform to push conversations forward about race, opportunity, and fairness. And that's a side of Wilt that often gets lost. The public focused on his on-court feats, his records, his personal life, but there was a depth, a curiosity, a moral code that guided him. He read philosophy, he studied history, he observed society. He knew the world was bigger than a basketball court, and he wanted to engage with it fully. And then there's the wealth side of Wilt Chamberlain. Yes, the famous lifestyle people talk about, the mansions, the cars, the travel, the extravagant experiences. But the truth? Wilt approached wealth like he approached everything else, with strategy. He invested wisely, made smart moves, and built a life that ensured he could live freely and fully. But unlike many of his contemporaries, his money wasn't about ego. It was about freedom. The freedom to explore, to learn, to travel, to invest in passions, and to help those he cared about. And the freedom factor was central to his personal life as well. Wilt Chamberlain famously had a complex personal life, and yes, some stories are controversial. But the key is context. Wilt was a man living an extraordinary life in an era that wasn't always forgiving or understanding. He was exploring identity, intimacy, and relationships in ways that even now are hard to fully grasp. What's often overlooked is his honesty and self-awareness. He didn't pretend. He lived according to his own code. And that authenticity, messy as it was, defined him. Now, think about that in the context of his training habits. Wilt Chamberlain didn't just dominate because he was big or fast or strong. He dominated because he combined physical prowess with a mental regimen few could match. Stretching routines, sprinting drills, weight experiments, breathing exercises, meditation, visualization. Wilt built a holistic approach to his body and mind decades before science called it peak performance. He understood the connection between mind, body, and focus better than most of his peers. And that's why, even in his late 30s, he could remain dominant and competitive. And it wasn't just about staying in shape. Wilt trained his mind for life, not just basketball. He spent hours reflecting, reading, strategizing, and learning. While his contemporaries might have spent time partying or resting, Wilt was constantly evolving. That discipline translated to everything: his investments, his writing, his activism, and even his post-retirement passions. Speaking of post-retirement, let's talk about the world beyond basketball. Many athletes struggle to redefine themselves after leaving the sport. Not Wilt. The man who once dominated courts became a pioneer in business, media, and even volleyball. He applied the same focus and discipline he had on the court to mastering new arenas. He reinvented himself again and again. And that's the side of Wilt that's so inspiring. He didn't let fame define him. He didn't let age define him. He didn't let public expectation define him. He defined himself on his terms. And this brings us to a crucial point: Wilt Chamberlain's vision for future generations. He wasn't just a player, he was a blueprint. He understood that true greatness wasn't just stats or championships. It was knowledge, wisdom, impact, teaching the next generation how to live fully, how to approach challenges with resilience, how to combine discipline with curiosity, how to explore the world with courage. That's the part of Wilt Chamberlain few ever talk about. The mentor, the thinker, the innovator, the philosopher disguised as a sports legend. It's this combination of traits, physical dominance, mental mastery, personal authenticity, intellectual curiosity, and social awareness that makes Wilt Chamberlain's story so timeless. He didn't just play basketball, he transcended it. He didn't just live life, he studied it, shaped it, and challenged others to do the same. And that's why when we look at Wilt Chamberlain today, decades after he first stepped on the court, his story isn't just about basketball records or flashy highlights. It's about what it means to live boldly, to live honestly, to master your craft, to push boundaries, to define your legacy, not by what the world expects, but by who you are at your core. Because here's the ultimate lesson from Wilt Chamberlain. Greatness isn't about what the world sees. It's about the discipline, the curiosity, the integrity, and the courage that fuel a life lived at your full potential. And if you can take even a fraction of that into your own journey, you're already learning from one of the greatest minds and hearts to ever step into a basketball court and beyond. And as Wilt Chamberlain moved into the final chapters of his life, the world began to see a different kind of legend, one less about points, rebounds, and records, and more about the man behind the myth. Because for all his fame and dominance, Wilt was still a student of life, still a thinker, still someone who questioned everything around him: fame, society, identity, and even the meaning of success. People often ask me, what was Wilt really like off the court? And let me tell you, the truth will blow your mind. Wilt lived life intentionally. He wasn't caught up in the trappings of celebrity or money for money's sake. Sure, he enjoyed luxury, but for Wilt, luxury was about freedom. The freedom to explore, to learn, to challenge himself, to grow as a person. He collected cars not as trophies, but as tools to experience the world in a way that few people ever could. He invested not to boast, but to create opportunity. Opportunity for himself and for those around him. And his curiosity? It was relentless. Wilt read history like it was a competitive sport. He dissected the lives of leaders, thinkers, and pioneers. He was fascinated by human behavior, by how people succeed and fail. He often held court, literally and figuratively, discussing philosophy, strategy, and social issues with friends, colleagues, and sometimes even journalists. But don't be fooled, these weren't casual chats. Wilt approached conversation the way he approached a game, with focus, strategy, and a desire to learn and leave no stone unturned. Wilt's life also gives us one of the most important lessons about handling controversy. Look, the man's personal life has always been the subject of whispers, rumors, and outright scandal. Some of the stories are incredible, some exaggerated, and some impossible to verify. But here's what's undeniable. Wilt lived honestly. He made no excuses. He didn't hide behind a public image. He refused to let society dictate how he should behave, who he should love, or how he should define himself. In a world obsessed with conformity, Wilt Chamberlain refused to comply. And that, my friends, is true freedom. And then there's his mental approach, the secret weapon behind his longevity and success. While the world saw a towering athlete scoring impossible numbers, Wilt was mastering the mind just as much as the body. He developed meditation techniques, mental visualization practices, and what he called focus drills that allowed him to isolate pressure, anticipate moves, and make decisions with precision. Long before sports psychology became mainstream, Wilt was pioneering it in his own way, blending intuition, self-study, and experience. And it wasn't just for basketball. Wilt applied the same mental discipline to business, travel, personal challenges, and his approach to relationships. He knew that a sharp mind could outpace even the strongest opponent. And it's exactly this mental edge that allowed him to redefine basketball, and later, life itself. But let's talk about something most fans never hear: his activism. Wilt was born in an era where racial inequality was systemic. Yet, despite his fame and privilege, he never turned away from the realities around him. He used his platform, not with grandstanding, but through quiet influence, speaking to communities, mentoring young athletes, and demonstrating through example that success didn't erase responsibility. While he wasn't always vocal in the media, those who knew him understood his commitment to justice, equality, and progress. He was, in many ways, a blueprint for the socially conscious athlete decades before it became a trend. And then comes his philosophy on legacy, something that defined the later years of his life. Wilt Chamberlain often said, "What you leave behind isn't about numbers, it's about people, ideas, and the impact you make." And he lived that philosophy every day. Beyond records and rings, Wilt wanted to inspire. He wanted to teach. He wanted to show future generations what it meant to be disciplined, fearless, and uncompromisingly authentic. He visited schools, spoke to aspiring athletes, and engaged with communities. He explained that life wasn't about avoiding failure, it was about embracing it, learning from it, and using it as fuel to grow. And through this, Wilt's influence extended far beyond basketball. Today, countless players, entrepreneurs, and thinkers cite him as inspiration, not just for his on-court achievements, but for his approach to life. Even in his final years, Wilt remained a study in discipline and curiosity. He trained daily. He maintained his body with exercise routines he refined over decades. He read voraciously. He explored new hobbies. He traveled widely. He cultivated friendships across industries. And he continued to reflect on his life, openly acknowledging mistakes, successes, and everything in between.
But the story of Wilt Chamberlain isn't just a story about greatness. It's a story about humanity, about resilience, about the pursuit of mastery, not just in sport, but in life. It's about understanding that talent is only half the equation. The rest is about mindset, curiosity, honesty, and the courage to live unapologetically. And here's the part that really hits me when I reflect on Wilt's journey. Despite the legends, the myths, the numbers that boggle the mind, Wilt remained deeply grounded in one core truth. He wanted to be authentic. That was the ultimate achievement. That was the most important legacy he could leave. And that, more than any stat, record, or highlight, is why his story continues to captivate, inspire, and teach. Now, some people might ask, what lessons can we take from a man like Wilt Chamberlain? After all, he was extraordinary in a way few humans will ever be. But the truth is, you don't have to be 7'1" or score 100 points in a game to apply Wilt's principles. Here's what he teaches us. Discipline trumps talent. Wilt practiced obsessively, trained methodically, and mastered mental control long before others even thought about it. Curiosity fuels growth. Wilt didn't stop at basketball. He explored business, philosophy, history, and culture, always seeking to expand his mind. Authenticity is power. Wilt refused to be defined by society's expectations. He lived life on his terms, unapologetically. Resilience shapes legacy. Criticism, controversy, and pressure never broke him. They refined him. Impact matters more than accolades. Wilt's greatest achievements weren't just stats. They were the inspiration, wisdom, and guidance he provided to others. And if you combine all of these principles, what you get is more than a basketball legend. You get a blueprint for life. Because at the heart of Wilt Chamberlain's story isn't just a tale of points, rebounds, or championships. It's a story about human potential, about mastering mind and body, about standing firm in your authenticity,
about leaving the world a little better than you found it. And when I reflect on his life, I can't help but feel a mixture of awe, inspiration, and humility. Wilt Chamberlain wasn't just the guy who scored 100 points. He was a giant in every sense, physically, mentally, emotionally, and philosophically. His life challenges us to push harder, think deeper, and live boldly. And as we close this journey, one thing becomes clear. Wilt Chamberlain's story isn't meant to be forgotten. It's meant to be studied, to be admired, to be learned from. And if you let it, it can change the way you approach everything: sports, work, relationships, and life itself. Because that, my friends, is the true measure of greatness. And now, as we step into the final chapters of Wilt Chamberlain's life, I want you to pause and really picture the man behind the legend, the towering figure who redefined basketball, the myth who scored 100 points in a single game, the athlete who broke records that still boggle the mind, but more importantly, the human being who lived a life of relentless curiosity, discipline, and authenticity. Because here's the thing, Wilt Chamberlain wasn't just about stats. He was about legacy, about mastering the game of life as much as the game on the hardwood. And that's the part that so many people overlook. While fans and media were obsessed with points, rebounds, and championships, Wilt was quietly, consistently, and deliberately building a life that was extraordinary in every way. He taught us that greatness is more than skill. It's about mindset, about resilience, about refusing to be defined by the expectations of others, about embracing curiosity and using your gifts to create impact. Wilt's life reminds us that success isn't a moment, it's a journey of discipline, courage, and relentless self-improvement. Even in his later years, Wilt Chamberlain embodied this philosophy. He didn't just sit back on his accomplishments, he continued to challenge himself. He continued to explore the world. He continued to learn, to teach, and to inspire. Whether it was mentoring young athletes, engaging with communities, or exploring new business ventures, Wilt lived fully until the very end. And the most powerful lesson we can take from Wilt Chamberlain isn't a number, isn't a record, isn't even a championship. It's the mindset he lived by. Define yourself. Don't let the world define you. Be disciplined, be curious, be bold, and live life on your terms. This is why Wilt Chamberlain's story isn't just for basketball fans. It's for anyone who wants to achieve greatness, not just in their career, but in life. It's for those who want to push past limits, embrace their potential, and create a legacy that lasts long after they're gone. And now, right here, right now, I want to ask you something. What part of Wilt's story resonates with you the most? Is it his dominance on the court, his mental discipline, his relentless curiosity, or maybe his courage to live life authentically despite the world's judgment? Because here's the truth. The lessons of Wilt Chamberlain aren't confined to basketball. They're universal, they're timeless, and they can transform the way you approach your own life. And that's why you need to join us here at The Athlete's Book. If you're the type of person who wants more than highlights and stats, if you're the type of person who craves the untold stories, the behind-the-scenes struggles, the personal habits, the mental strategies, the controversies handled, and the legacy lessons from the world's greatest athletes, then this is the place for you. Every week, we dive deep into the lives of legends like Wilt Chamberlain, exploring what made them truly extraordinary. We uncover the untold stories that the mainstream never talks about. We bring you closer to the human side of greatness. And most importantly, we give you the tools, insights, and inspiration to take the lessons of these incredible athletes and apply them to your own life. So here's what I want you to do next. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Don't miss a single story, because the lives we uncover here aren't just entertainment, they're lessons in mastery, resilience, and authenticity. And if you're ready to take it even further, leave a comment below sharing your favorite part of Wilt Chamberlain's journey. I want to hear what inspired you, what challenged you, and what lesson you're taking into your own life. Because this community isn't just about watching history, it's about learning from it, growing with it, and using it to fuel your own path to greatness. Now, before we wrap, let me leave you with one final thought about Wilt Chamberlain, the lesson that I keep coming back to, the lesson that makes his story so unforgettable.
He once said, "Nobody roots for Goliath." Think about that. A man of unmatched talent, strength, and intelligence, who was misunderstood, misjudged, and often vilified. Yet he never let it stop him. He didn't shrink. He didn't apologize. He didn't settle. He simply became the best version of himself over and over again. And that's the power of authenticity, discipline, and relentless self-mastery. So take Wilt's example. Apply it to your life. Be bold, be relentless, be unapologetically you. Because greatness isn't about the applause of the world. It's about living your truth and pushing yourself to reach the limits of your potential. And remember, here at The Athlete's Book, we're not just telling stories. We're uncovering the secrets of greatness. We're exploring the minds, habits, and philosophies of the world's most extraordinary athletes. And together, we're learning how to take their lessons into our own lives. So hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and get ready, because the next story we dive into will challenge you, inspire you, and maybe even change the way you see yourself. This is Wilt Chamberlain's life, a story of dominance, discipline, curiosity, controversy, and authenticity. But more importantly, it's a story of what's possible when you refuse to let the world define you, when you push past limits, and when you commit to mastering your mind, body, and life. And if you carry just one lesson from his story, let it be this: own your life, define your legacy, and never, ever settle for anything less than extraordinary. Because greatness isn't given, it's earned. And Wilt Chamberlain showed the world exactly how it's done.